Hello, dear YouTube viewers, I hope you're doing well. Okay, let's start our video. Ethan stands in the soft morning light of his kitchen, frying eggs while humming under his breath. The smell of coffee fills the room. He glances toward his wife, Sophie, sitting at the table, her attention fixed on her phone. He speaks to her about weekend plans, but she barely looks up, only responding with a distracted, "Yeah, sure." Ethan forces a smile, hiding the small sting of being ignored. He cracks another egg and says something playful, hoping to make her laugh. She looks up briefly, gives a faint smile, then goes back to scrolling. The silence that follows is heavier than the sound of the sizzling pan. In his thoughts, Ethan reflects, sometimes love fades quietly. You don't hear it leaving, you just wake up and it's gone. He looks at her, and though she's only a few feet away, she feels miles apart. The distance isn't physical, it's emotional, and he can sense it growing. That evening, the house fills with laughter and the clinking of glasses. Sophie has invited a few close friends for dinner, including Clara, her best friend since college. Clara is confident, charming, and full of energy. She compliments the meal, making everyone laugh with her witty comments. Ethan sits beside Sophie, quietly enjoying the moment, feeling a little proud that the dinner turned out well. But then Sophie, in the middle of a playful conversation, leans forward and says with a laugh, "Clara, you can have Ethan for a week. He's too perfect for me." The group bursts into laughter. It sounds harmless, but Ethan freezes for a second, unsure how to react. He glances at Clara, who smirks playfully and replies, "Careful, Sophie. I might just take you up on that." More laughter follows, but this time Ethan doesn't join in. He feels something strange in the air, a tiny shift, a spark of discomfort hiding behind the humor. Sophie nudges him, joking, "Come on, don't look so serious," but her tone feels slightly mocking. He forces a smile for the rest of the evening, keeping quiet as everyone enjoys dessert and conversation. Yet deep inside, his thoughts spiral. Was that just a joke? Or was there more behind it? Later that night, after everyone leaves, Ethan helps clean the dishes in silence. Sophie is in a light mood, humming as she wipes the counter. Ethan finally breaks the silence, his voice calm but uncertain. "You know that joke you made at dinner? It was kind of weird." Sophie laughs lightly, not even looking up. "Oh, come on. Don't be so sensitive. Everyone knew it was just a joke." Her tone is dismissive, and that stings more than her words. Ethan opens his mouth to explain how it made him feel, but stops. She's already turned her attention to her phone again, typing quickly with a faint smile. He glances at the screen without meaning to. A message pops up from Clara. "Fun night." Something twists inside him. Not quite anger, not quite jealousy, just unease. Sophie doesn't seem to notice his expression. She yawns and says she's going to bed. Ethan stays behind, staring at the dim light on her phone screen before it goes dark. He sits alone for a while, thinking. Maybe I'm overreacting, he tells himself. They're just friends. It's all in my head. But his gut says otherwise. As he turns off the lights and heads upstairs, his voice lingers in his own mind. I told myself it meant nothing, that it was all in my head. Yet somewhere deep down, he knows something small has shifted and it won't stop growing. The following days drift by in a quiet, uneasy rhythm. Ethan starts noticing things he once ignored. Sophie's phone buzzes more often now, and each time it does, a faint smile appears on her face. Sometimes she laughs softly, then tilts the screen away when he glances in her direction. It's not overt, nothing that screams betrayal, but the secrecy in her small gestures starts to sting. He tries to shake it off, telling himself not to overthink. But one evening, as he sits on the couch scrolling through his own phone, a message pops up on his Instagram from Clara. "Hey, thanks for the dinner the other night. You're a great cook." Ethan stares at the message for a few seconds, unsure what to make of it. He types a polite reply. "Thanks, glad you enjoyed it," and leaves it at that. No emojis. No flirting. Just polite distance. Still, something about it feels off. Later that night, Sophie sees the notification when she picks up his phone to check the time. "Oh, Clara messaged you," she says casually, raising an eyebrow. Then, in a teasing tone, she adds, "Looks like she really likes you. Maybe I should watch out." Ethan gives a faint, half-hearted smile. "Maybe you should," he says quietly, not as a joke, not with anger, but with a calm edge that Sophie doesn't quite notice. The moment passes, but the air between them feels slightly colder than before. Over the next week, Sophie's attitude begins to shift. She starts making small jabs at Ethan, calling him too serious, boring, or predictable. She rolls her eyes when he talks about work. When he tries to plan something nice, she dismisses it as the same old thing. Ethan, patient as always, tries to understand. "Sophie, what's going on? You've been distant lately." Her response is sharp. "I'm just tired of the same routine, Ethan. Everything with you is so dull. No excitement, no spark." He stays quiet, letting her vent. But her words cut deep. That night, another argument brews, small at first, then building into frustration. Sophie, her voice rising, throws the words that break something inside him. "Maybe Clara would appreciate you more than I do." The room falls silent. Ethan looks at her, not with anger, but with a strange calm. The same words, the same joke. But this time, there's venom behind it. He takes a slow breath, then says softly, "Maybe you're right." She freezes, surprised by his tone. It's not sarcastic, not defensive, just quiet acceptance. Something in his voice feels final. Later that night, while Sophie scrolls on her phone pretending nothing happened, Ethan sits alone in the living room. His thoughts are heavy but clear. "The moment she said it, something in me broke, but not in the way she thought." From that day forward, Ethan begins to change. He stops chasing conversations, stops trying to make her laugh. He's still kind, still polite, but distant. He goes to work early, comes home late, and spends more time by himself. Sophie notices, but misunderstands. She assumes he's sulking, waiting for an apology. What she doesn't see is that he's already building emotional walls, protecting what's left of his heart. One afternoon, while taking a break at a quiet cafe near his office, Ethan hears a familiar voice. "Ethan? It's Clara." She smiles warmly, approaching his table. They talk, lightly, casually. She compliments his calmness, his kindness, his patience. "You know," she says softly, "Sophie doesn't deserve a man like you." Ethan looks at her for a moment. There's honesty in her eyes, maybe even admiration, but he doesn't respond. He simply nods, sipping his coffee in silence. Inside, though, her words echo louder than she could ever imagine. Not because he believes them, but because deep down he's starting to realize she might be right. And that realization, quiet, steady, painful, is the beginning of his detachment. He walks home that evening without anger or sadness. Just clarity. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't argue. It simply decides to stop trying. The weekend arrives, and Sophie is in her best mood in weeks. She's buzzing with energy as she prepares for another small gathering at their home. The living room glows under warm lights, music hums softly in the background, and glasses of wine are already being poured before the first course even begins. Sophie laughs louder than usual, her confidence brimming, the kind of laughter that hides something deeper, something defensive. Ethan, quiet as ever, moves around the guests, polite but detached, smiling just enough to avoid suspicion. Clara arrives late, dressed elegantly, carrying a bottle of wine. Her eyes meet Ethan's briefly, a silent exchange of acknowledgement. Sophie greets her with exaggerated affection, wrapping her in a hug and saying loudly, "Finally, now the party can start." Everyone chuckles. The atmosphere seems light, but beneath it all, tension crackles faintly. As dinner progresses, Sophie's glass is never empty. Her jokes grow sharper, her tone looser. She teases Ethan for being too serious, again, for never knowing how to have fun. Ethan responds with calm restraint, the same composure that now irritates her even more. Her friends shift in their seats, trying to laugh it off. Then, somewhere between dessert and another refill of wine, Sophie delivers the line that changes everything. She laughs and says, "Clara, Maybe I should just give Ethan to you. You two get along too well, anyway. The words hang in the air. The laughter this time is hesitant, uncomfortable. Everyone can sense the awkwardness, but Sophie just keeps smiling, expecting Ethan to shrug it off like always. But Ethan doesn't laugh. He looks at her for a long, steady moment, then turns his gaze toward Clara. The room quiets. Even the music feels distant now. Slowly, Ethan stands, picks up his glass, and says calmly, "You know what, Sophie? Maybe you should." The words land like a slap, though his tone is soft, measured, even kind. He sets his glass down on the table, his eyes never leaving hers. The room falls completely silent. Sophie blinks, confused at first, waiting for him to smile and say he's kidding. But he doesn't. Ethan turns to Clara, who looks caught between surprise and disbelief. "You ready to go?" he asks quietly. The room freezes. A couple of Sophie's friends exchange uneasy glances. Clara hesitates for a moment, her breath caught, but then, without saying a word, she stands. The quiet sound of her chair moving against the floor is deafening. She looks at Ethan, then back at Sophie, who's still smiling uncertainly, thinking this must be part of the joke. Ethan reaches for his keys, walks toward the door, and holds it open for Clara. She walks past him, her step slow, her face unreadable. The door closes gently behind them. Sophie lets out a loud laugh, almost desperate. "Okay, very funny, guys. Come on. Joke's over." Her friends stay silent. She looks around, her laughter weakening. "You guys, it's a joke, right?" No one answers. The laughter dies completely. The sound of the closing car door outside cuts through the tension. Then the distant hum of an engine fades into the night. Sophie stands frozen for a few seconds, confusion turning into unease. One of her friends whispers, "Was that for real?" Another mutters, "Maybe you went too far, sophomore." Her heart starts racing. She grabs her phone, dialing Ethan's number. It rings, but he doesn't answer. She calls again. Nothing. A text follows, then another. "Ethan, where are you? Come on, stop this." Then, "This isn't funny anymore." But there's no reply. Meanwhile, Ethan drives through the quiet streets, the city lights reflecting off the windshield. Clara sits in the passenger seat, silent. The only sound is the faint hum of the tires on the road. Finally, Clara speaks softly, her voice careful, almost guilty. "You didn't have to do that." Ethan keeps his eyes on the road. "Maybe I did," he says calmly. "I was done being the punchline." Clara turns her gaze toward the window. "She didn't mean it, you know," she murmurs, though even she doesn't sound convinced. Ethan shakes his head faintly. "No," he says. "She did." Maybe not the words, but the disrespect. That part was real. They drive for a while longer until Ethan pulls into a quiet spot overlooking a hill, a small park, nearly empty at this hour. The air is calm, cool, and filled with the chirping of crickets. He turns off the engine. For a while, neither of them speaks. Finally, Ethan breaks the silence. "Thank you," he says softly. Clara looks puzzled. "For what?" "For showing me that respect still exists somewhere in this world," he replies. "Even if it's just in the way someone listens." Clara gives a sad smile. "You didn't deserve how she treated you, Ethan. I've seen it for years, the little jabs, the way she talks down to you like it's a joke. I used to think it was harmless, but tonight I realized it wasn't." He nods slowly, looking out at the city lights. "I think I realized that too a long time ago. I just didn't want to admit it." They sit there for hours talking, not about romance, not about revenge, but about understanding, pain, and the strange peace that comes after you stop fighting for someone who no longer values you. When the night finally deepens, Ethan looks up at the stars and feels something he hasn't felt in a long time: freedom. Not joy, not triumph, just a calm sense of release. In his mind, his voice echoes softly. "She gave me away as a joke. I left as a statement." Back home, Sophie's laughter from the night before has turned into silence. The house feels empty, her friends are gone. The dishes remain half-cleaned, and the echo of Ethan's calm voice, "Maybe you should," plays again and again in her head. She paces the living room, half in disbelief, half in panic. She picks up her phone and tries calling him again. Straight to voicemail. Hours pass. Her messages pile up. Where are you? Come home, please. It was just a joke. But the screen stays still. No reply. No read receipts. Nothing. By morning, the weight of her own words begins to crush her. She calls her sister, her voice trembling. When her sister arrives, Sophie is a mess. Eyes red, hair disheveled, pacing barefoot in the kitchen. I didn't think he'd actually go, she says through tears. It was just a joke. He always knew I didn't mean it. Her sister looks at her quietly for a long moment before answering. Then, maybe you shouldn't have kept saying it. The tone is flat, not cruel, just honest. Sophie freezes. There's nothing she can say because deep down, she knows it's true. She tries calling Ethan's workplace next. The receptionist informs her that he's taken a week off. The words hit her like a wave. A week off. He'd never taken time off before. She knows what that means. He's gone. And this time he's not just cooling off. Desperate, she drives to Clara's house, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turn white. The street is quiet, dimly lit by the orange glow of streetlights. Then she sees it. Ethan's car parked in front of Clara's driveway. Her breath catches in her throat. For a moment, she wants to get out, to bang on the door, to demand an explanation. But instead, she stops herself. She just sits there, frozen behind the wheel, tears streaming down her cheeks. The image of his car outside another woman's home burns into her mind like a cruel mirror of her own joke, the joke that became reality. She whispers through her sobs, "What have I done?" Inside that silence, Ethan's voice echoes faintly, a voice that isn't really there but one she can't stop hearing. It's strange. The moment I stopped chasing her, she finally looked back. The following days are heavy. Sophie doesn't eat much, doesn't sleep properly. Every sound in the house reminds her of him. The coffee mug he used every morning, the jacket still hanging near the door. She replays every cruel remark, every joke that crossed the line, realizing now how sharp her words had been. A week later, she finally gets a message from Ethan. It's short and polite. Let's meet. I'll drop off your things. Nothing more. No emotion, no hint of reconciliation, just closure. They meet in a small cafe downtown, one they used to visit in better days. The air feels thick with things unsaid. Sophie arrives early, hoping to find the right words. When Ethan walks in, calm and composed, she feels her chest tighten. He looks peaceful, not angry, not bitter, just distant, like someone who has already moved on. He places a small box on the table. Some of your things, he says. His tone is gentle but firm. Sophie's hands shake slightly as she reaches for it. Ethan, she whispers, I was stupid. I didn't mean to hurt you. It was just a joke that went too far. He listens quietly, his eyes steady on her face. When she finishes, he takes a deep breath. You didn't lose me because of a joke, Sophie, he says softly. You lost me because you stopped respecting me. The words land heavier than any argument could. Sophie lowers her head, tears falling silently onto the table. There's no defense, no excuse left to give. Ethan stands, sets a few bills beside his untouched coffee, and says, Take care of yourself. As he walks away, the sound of the doorbell chime feels like the closing of a chapter. Sophie stays seated, staring at the coffee that's gone cold, the small box beside her like a symbol of everything she once had and took for granted. Outside, Ethan steps into the cool afternoon air. He feels no triumph, no bitterness, just peace. The kind that comes not from revenge, but from finally choosing himself. Months have passed. The chaos, the heartbreak, the anger, all of it has faded into something softer. Ethan now lives in a small but warm apartment overlooking the city. The walls are painted a calm shade of blue, his old life neatly packed away into boxes he never felt the need to reopen. A canvas rests by the window. On it, half-finished strokes of color, calm and abstract, like fragments of healing. He's picked up painting again, something he hadn't done since before his marriage. The act is quiet, meditative, a way to fill silence with something beautiful instead of pain. He wakes up early, makes coffee, and sits by the window as sunlight spills across the room. No arguments. No tension. Just peace. Clara visits sometimes, not out of romance but friendship. She brings pastries, tells him about her work, and occasionally teases him for still not owning a proper couch. They laugh easily. The weight that once lingered between them has been replaced by mutual respect. As they share coffee one morning, Clara glances around his apartment and smiles. "You look different," she says. Ethan chuckles. "Hopefully better." She nods. "Definitely better. Happier." After she leaves, Ethan stands at the window, watching the sunlight shift across the city. The voiceover begins, quiet and reflective. "I didn't leave to hurt her. I left to save myself." Some jokes end with laughter. Others end with lessons. He looks at his reflection in the glass, not the man who is humiliated or heartbroken, but someone who's learned the art of letting go. Scene 13, the symbolic moment. One quiet evening, Ethan's phone buzzes. It's a message from Sophie. "I hope you're happy. I miss you." He stares at the screen for a moment, not with anger, not even with sadness, just a calm understanding. The person he once loved is now just a chapter that taught him how to write his own story. He types slowly. "I am. And I hope one day, you'll be too." Then he pauses and presses delete. The message disappears. So does her number. He exhales deeply, a small, peaceful smile crossing his face. The phone goes dark in his hand, and for the first time in a long while, it doesn't feel like silence. It feels like freedom. Ethan walks to the balcony, the city lights flickering below like distant stars. A soft breeze runs through his hair. He closes his eyes, letting it wash over him, the sound of life moving forward. Voiceover. Peace doesn't come when they apologize. It comes when you stop needing them to. He opens his eyes, takes one last look at the skyline, and steps back inside, calm, free, and whole again. The screen fades to black. Thanks for watching. For more videos, please subscribe. Our channel, Awesome Visual Story.